Hey, what's up guys? Everything okay? The story begins with our protagonist, Yui Komori, who just arrived to a mansion. For her bad luck, that day was raining. So she goes to the door of the mansion and knocks to open the door. Not getting an answer, Yui was about to open the door, but suddenly the door opened by itself. Weird, right? When she enters, Yui asks if there is someone at home, and realizing that there is not, the situation seems fun to him, since he thinks that maybe they did not tell him that he was coming today. She finds this redhead sleeping in a chair, so she approaches him and tries to talk to him, but when she has contact with him, she realizes that her body is cold and also realizes that she has no pulse, so she takes out her phone to call an ambulance. However, at that moment the boy woke up and took the cell phone away. He complains that the girl is very noisy. He tells her that she is in her house and that she should stay quiet. Yui is surprised that the boy is alive. He wonders why he is not. Yui tells him that his heart does not beat, and when Yui tries to get away, the boy with red hair like Hayato, and asks him why the commotion, since they are in the entrance hall. And it is supposed to be a place to receive visitors, so he asks them to do their activities in their room. And desperately, he asks Reiji doesn't understand what's going on, since he didn't hear anything about it. So he asks Hayato for an explanation. Hayato asks why he should know, and tells Yu, calling her by her nickname, Pancake, that he had never mentioned any of that. Yu answers that it's because Hayato attacked her out of nowhere, and when he recalculates that he called her Pancake, he asks if he's talking about her. Hayato tells him that of course he is talking about her, and tells him that she is as flat as a pancake. Reiji is still thoughtful, since he was not informed of this at all. Yui asks him who he is, but Reiji replies that they should not talk here. First he asks the butler to take care of Yui's luggage. There they ask him how he did to enter this house. But when they asked him that, another boy appeared, which is surprising to know that the rumors are true. There is really a cute human girl in the mansion. The boy quickly approaches Yui, and tells her that she smells so good and sweet. Another boy appeared out of nowhere, and I want to smell Yui too. Reiji draws attention to those two, Reito and Kanato, and asks them if they do not believe that this behavior is rude for a lady they have just met. Hayato tells the boys that it is enough, and that His Majesty saw her first, referring to himself. So Ayato says that His Majesty will be his first everything. Here we hear a voice that says to Ayato, pathetic. He also says that he is fed up with Ayato calling himself as His Majesty. Who was behind the voice was Subaru, who expressed that he thought he smelled human around here, and he realized that it was Yui. The angry with Yui asks him how he dares to interrupt his precious dream. Reiji asks the guys in the room if they didn't tell them something about this lady who came to live with them. Apparently nobody knows anything, since everyone is silent. Yui says that it seems to be a misunderstanding, so she tries to leave, but Reiji tells her to wait, since he is trying to find out what this whole thing is about. The room another voice is heard, which asks Yu if she is the woman that man mentioned. Reiji asks Shu if he knows something about the girl. He says that maybe. He mentions that that guy contacted him the other day. He told him that they will have a guest who comes from the church, so he asked him to treat her with respect. Hayato reacts surprised at Shu's words, and asks if this pancake is the future girlfriend. Shu also mentions that the guy said that they can't eliminate her either. Thanks to Shu's information, Reiji says that it seems that it is not a misunderstanding, so they present themselves properly. First we have the eldest son, Shu. The next is Reiji. Hayato is the third. Then Kanato, Reito, and finally Subaru. Yu says that this must be a mistake, since no one told him anything about girlfriends or anything like that, and she also tells them that they are also weird, so Joy says she needs to contact her father. But Hayato has his cell phone. Joy desperately asks him to give it back, but Hayato makes fun of her for a while, but at that moment Subaru takes the cell phone from Hayato, and out of nowhere Subaru destroys Joy's cell phone in front of this fact. Joy is devastated. I mean, imagine. They broke the cell phone. Who wouldn't be in his place? But Reito tells him not to worry, that he is about to become a good friend for them, and that he won't need the cell phone here. Kanato confesses that he has felt quite hungry. Reito supports what Kanato says. This makes Yui scared, so she runs and stumbles due to the blow. Yui's blood comes out, and it is in this situation that Yui realizes the true identity of the boys. They are vampires. Scared, she takes out a rosary, hoping to defend herself with it. Reiji calmly tells her that he really believed in that fairy tale written by a mortal, assuring that vampires are vulnerable to garlic, sacred crosses, and the sun's light. Reiji emphasizes that this only shows how naive and arrogant the mortals are, and this makes Reiji furious. For his part, Yui gets scared and runs away. She tries to communicate with someone through the mansion's phone, but it doesn't work. And since Reito appeared behind her, this scared him more, so he continues running. A door arrived which was closed, but at that moment Yato appears and asks him where he is trying to go. He tells him that he cannot escape from him now, but Yui pushes him and he keeps running. Finally a room arrives which was also closed with a lock, but for his luck just when he arrived the lock broke by magic. He enters the room and through the window she can see how someone is behind her. This person will be more important for later, you will see why. But when the person who was behind is about to turn to see Yui, out of nowhere she starts to hurt her chest. This caused Yui to accidentally crash into a bookshelf, from which a book fell, which Yui began to read. In this book she found a photo of her as a child, and realizes that what she just found is nothing more and nothing less than her father's diary. But she doesn't only find out about that, since Yui reads a text that says Yui gives me happiness. The fact that she is not my daughter doesn't mean anything now. She wonders what this means, since she just found out that she is not her father's daughter. She also wonders what her father's diary does in this place. At that moment all the vampires appear, and Reiji tells her that of all the rooms in the mansion, she had to choose this one. A room that was sealed, so that no one could enter. So they wonder how did Yui enter here. And Hayato takes Yui by the neck and asks her if she is ready. The next day, Yui wakes up normally and is glad that she was not bitten. However, she does not remember having changed, but she finds another clothes. She remembers the vampires and asks herself how this happened. She thinks she has to contact her father, wondering what all this means, so she, in tears, asks her father to come home soon. Reito tells her that crying won't help at all. He also tells her that what he's wearing looks good on her, so he tries to get closer to Yui. Hayato appears, who tells her not to touch what is on her server, without permission. Reito asks Hayato not to be so hard, but Hayato asks him to shut up, and says that Yui is his. At that moment, Reiji appears and tells the two vampires that they will be late. He also tells Yui that from now on they are going to go to school. She asks why go to school so late. Reiji gets upset, saying that it seems that everything has to be explained in detail, but tells her that she is going to go to night school. Even so, Yui says that it is too late to go to school. Reiji explains that they can't have her active during the day, just because she has the common sense of a mortal, so he tells him that while he resides in the house of Sagamaki, he must adapt to their lifestyle. Reiji also tells him that if he has any complaints, then he is welcome to leave this house at any time. He reminds him that he said that if he tries to escape then, well, he is dead. But Reiji simply asks him if he said something, so you has no choice but to pretend to be crazy and say that he said nothing. So in this case, Reiji asks him to change the school uniform again. Once they leave Yui alone, she thinks that maybe this is the opportunity to go back to the room where she found the diary, but when she opens the door of her room, Hayato is waiting for her outside. And as she saw that she has not changed yet, she tells her that her servant is here to help her. Yui quickly closes the door, saying that she does not need it. At the end, Yui put on the uniform and goes with the vampires in a limousine. She sees it knows that they are all brothers, but she wonders why they do not get along and that they do not even look at each other or talk to each other or anything. At that moment Hayato starts talking to him. He asks Yui what she has in mind and tells her that she has many agalas to challenge him. But since Hayato keeps calling her Pancake, she asks him not to keep calling her that, because she says she has a name, and that is Yui Komori. Hayato tells her to shut up, and that she doesn't care about her opinion during her life, so he calls her Pancake again and takes out his fangs. Angry King asks Hayato how many times he has to repeat it, to take those activities in his room. And he also tells Yui that this is for her, offers her a blueberry juice, and tells her that this is the best cure for weak blood. It also says that you have to be very aware that it is their prey, so ask them to drink this juice daily. When she arrives to school, she is told that she will be in the same class as Hayato and Kanato, so Reiji asks her to go with them, and warns her that unless she wants to be beaten, she should not try anything reckless. Upon entering the classroom, Yui to the kitchen and asks her to make the best takoyaki in the world. Yui resists, since she tells her that she has to go to class. However, Ayato asks her not to talk anymore and sends her to cook. For Yui, what Ayato is doing does not make sense, but when Ayato tries what Yui prepared for her, it seems delicious. For his part, Yui is a little worried, since he missed his first class on his first day of school. Ayato tells him not to worry about the little things and asks him to eat a little. After trying the au and they seem delicious to him too, but he does not have time to eat more, since she wants to leave everything clean to be able to go to the next class. While washing the dishes, she asks Ayato for help, since in the end she cooked because Ayato asked for it. Ayato appears behind her, which scares Yui and goes to one side. He asks why he is running away and tells her that he has been waiting for him since yesterday, so Hayato asks Yui to let him suck her. So at that moment, Zas, Hayato grabs Yui and drains a little tomato juice. Hayato seems to like Yui's tomato juice, since he says that it is sweeter than anything else he has tried, so Hayato tells Yui that he likes it, so he continues on his own. Yui asks him to let her go, and because she moves a lot, Yui gets hurt. The sequence continues a little longer, since even though Yui asks Hayato to stop, he can't stop, since he's a vampire. But at that moment Reiji appears right behind them. He says that Hayato is a disgrace, and that he never thought he would do something like this at school. Hayato complains about Reiji's presence, since he says that he was just getting to the best part. Reiji asks Ayato to be responsible and make sure that Yui comes home. When she wakes up, Yui meets Ayato. She is still a little scared, and when Ayato wants to approach her, Yui asks her to stay where she is. She asks her why she is doing this. However, Ayato carries her and takes her to a pool. She tells her that she is at the mercy of his servant, so he asks him to stop discuss about everything he does. So after saying that, Ayato throws Yui to the pool, asks him to tell him that he is the best and that she belongs to him. For his part, Yui asks Ayato for help, since she does not know how to swim. This data will be very important for later, you'll see why. So remember that Yui does not know swim. This moment makes Ayato have memories of the past, so after that memory she decides to enter the pool and save Yui, but when Ayato gets close to Yui, boom. She kisses her and she drinks a little more tomato juice of course, then she takes her out of the pool seeing that she is desperate. Ayato says that it is all for today for Yui, so he leaves her a towel so that she can dry and leaves after that. Yui goes to the forbidden room to look for her father's diary. She gets very happy because she managed to find it, but when she checks the diary, it turns out that it is empty. How is this possible? Sometime later, Yui is having lunch with the vampires, although she is very quiet and is not eating anything. Then he will give him anemia, so he asks him if he wants him to feed him. Reiji calls Reito's attention. He tells him that it is rude to get up from the table when he is having lunch. Reito answers that he understands this, but before sitting down he tells you that they will continue later with what they were. At that moment Shu simply gets up from the table saying, "What a nuisance." And after saying those words he leaves. Reggie calls him Aragon, and says that someone who has been raised pampering him since he was a child has no remedy. For his part, Kanato asks his teddy bear what he wants to eat. And Kanato starts to have a strange behavior. Very strange, the truth. So strange that it scares. The whole situation seems to Reggie outrageous, since not even the special dinner that is made once a month can be normal. So after this, he announces that today's dinner is over. However, when Yui was about to get up, Reiji tells her to wait. He also tells her that she has no manners at the table, and that soon he will look for the opportunity to discipline her meticulously. Although he asks if she agrees, to which Yui replies that yes. But because she has no choice but to, they will send her with God. While in her room, Yui checks her father's diary and realizes that a part has disappeared, so the only clue she has is the photo where she appears as a child. Yui hears a voice that asks her what is she doing. It's about Hayato. She asks him what he's doing here, to which Hayato replies that that's his business, so he asks her to let him drink a little tomato juice. Yui excuses herself, saying that right now he's going to take a bath. But when Yui tried to leave, Ayato stopped her and began to leave a mark on her. Yui asks him to stop, since lately she is feeling a little anemic. Ayato asks him not to speak that way, telling him that that pain is his mark. He asks him not to move, and that he will also do the mark on the other side. At that moment Ayato stops, and says that the rest will continue after his bath, since he says it would be a nuisance for her to get anemic by substituting a little tomato juice now. He also warns her to leave the bathroom soon, since he tells her that she already knows what will happen to her if she makes her wait. Joy was in the bathroom looking at the marks that Ayato left her, in that she realizes that Shu was in the bathtub, but when she talks to him, Shu tells him to shut up, asks him to stop the scandal. Since he says that he is only in the tub, Joey is surprised that Shu is in the tub with clothes, so he lets him know, but he says, well, take it off, and Shu insinuates that she came to the bathroom because she wanted to see him without clothes. Joey says that he is wrong and asks him not to say strange things, since she tells him that he only came to bathe to begin with. He didn't even know that Shu was there. Shu asks him if he wants to bathe with him, but Joey answers that no. In that, to change the subject a little, Yui asks him why they are all so different, and her brother Shu answers that it is because they do not have the same mother, since it turns out that Reiji and Shu share the same mother, but the Trigiso Zayato. Kanato and Reito are from another mother. Yui asks what about Subaru, and well, he also has another mother apart after telling him that Shu is immersed in the tub, but Yui tries to stop him, so he grabs Shu's hand. By doing this, Shu is reminded of the past, in which we can see a little Shu, who is witnessing a fire, and while he sees it, he pronounces the name of Edgar. However, due to this memory, Shu was squeezing Yui's hand very hard, until Yui to the tub and asks her to let her drink some tomato juice. But as Yui was in stiff mode, Shu asks her if she is terrified. He gets closer to Yui, expresses how white she is, but at that moment he also realizes the marks left by Hayato. And for Shu, it was not difficult to guess that the responsible of these marks is Hayato. And he says that Hayato clearly reflected his desire to have her only for him. You disappointed tells Shu that you thought he was different, so he asks why. Shu tells him not to be confused, since in the end he is a vampire. He tells him that he will show him a different world. And after saying that, Shu starts drinking a little tomato juice. And after doing so, he says that he already understood why you came to this mansion, since his tomato juice is first class. To finish, Shu tells him not to try to lend him a hand with so much ease and not forget it. After that, Yui returns to his room, but Ayato was already waiting for him. He tells him that it took a long time and that he is thirsty, so he asks him to stop drinking a little of his tomato juice at once. Yui responds that not now, but Ayato says that she has no right to deny herself, and when Ayato was about to do it, he realizes that they have already overtaken him. He knows perfectly well that the one responsible for this was Shu. This bothers Hayato, so he goes to look for Shu with you. When he arrives with Shu, he asks him if he is looking to fight him. But Shu, all he tells Hayato is to shut up. Hayato suggests that they do a competition by playing darts. Shu replies that he is lazy. This only makes Hayato angrier. Just at that moment, they hear another voice. It's about Reito, which is happy for the idea of the competition, since he says that the prize will be Yui. At that moment, Reiji also arrived. He says that they are making a lot of noise, so he asks what is all this mess about. Reiji finds out about the idea of the competition, but Shu says that she does not care, so he asks to be allowed to continue sleeping. Reiji replies that he thought he would say that, and says that Shu hesitates when he is mentioned to compete. He even called Shu a coward and everything, telling him that he can't do anything alone. After hearing the words of Reiji, Shu gets up and confirms to Yato that he is going to compete against him. The competition is very even, but if in the next shot Shu hits, he will definitely be the winner. And so it was, since Shu did the shot well, and after beating Yato, Shu was leaving as if nothing, but before he left, Reito tells him that here is his prize, so he pushes Yui to Shu. At that moment, Shu tells Yui that for him, humans are just a food and that he should know, so he tells him not to think that he will be able to get involved with him. Sometime later at school, Yui was looking for a phone, and after a lot of searching, she finally found one. But when she was about to use it, Kanato appears next to her. Kanato asks her if she knows why she is here, and she says that it is because she is thirsty. She also tells her that if her bear Teddy is also thirsty. She asks Teddy what he thinks about Yui not realizing things. Yui apologizes and tells him that in that case, she will go buy him something to drink. She also apologizes to Teddy, but this makes Kanato angry and asks him to stop talking to his Teddy with so much confidence, since he says that Teddy only needs him as a companion. Yui goes to buy something to drink for Kanato. She returns with a coffee, but Kanato, when he sees the coffee, he throws it away, and he says angry that what he likes are sweet things and that he hates bitter things like coffee. Yu says that anyway he did not have to throw it. This makes Kanato more angry and tells him not to answer him. He says that she is simply a worthless human. Yu apologizes, but Kanato tells him that why apologize if you really do not regret it. Yu asks then what he wants me to do. Kanato replies that she should think about it herself. Yu suggests that she go buy her something else, but this does not work for Kanato, since he says he does not need it. He takes Yui's hand and tells her that it seems that he dropped a little coffee, so Kanato begins to lick his hand. In that, Kanato asks Yui if she hates him, so he asks her what she thinks. He also asks her if she wants to know more about him. Yui replies that she does not hate him, but that she would like to know more about him. Kanato replies that then he tries to understand him well. And after saying this, Kanato was about to leave, but before he left, Yui asks him if by chance he did not see his bag. Kanato answers that he left it on the roof. She wonders why did this, and Kanato did this as a punishment for her. They also start talking to Teddy and ask him if anyone knows that that phone does not work. It doesn't work. 2 weeks ago, Joy went to the rooftop for her bag. There she found Reito, who was muttering the following words to himself. I love you forever, always, always, no matter if you want it or not. I've never forgotten you, not for a moment. Your voice, your smell, I remember everything. Reito realizes Joy's presence, so he approaches her. He tells her it's not good for her to go around listening to hidden things. She apologizes, saying it wasn't her intention to hear it. However, Reito replies that in the end he heard many things, so he wonders what he will do with Yui about it. He tells her that she needs to be punished, pushes Yui against the wall and confesses that the night elves feel particularly thirsty on a night like this, so much so that they die of thirst, so that Reito takes advantage of this moment to drink a little tomato juice. After doing it for some reason, Reito is surprised, and on his side Yui pushes him and runs away. Yui runs to a public phone and tries to make a call. She communicates with her father and explains that she is in a situation that she does not understand. But when she hears the voice that is behind the phone, it is about Reito. She wonders how this is possible. Reito answers that it is because he knows everything about her. Scared, Yui keeps running, but it does not take long to meet Reito, who asks him if he enjoyed his little free time. Just at that moment, an ad is heard on television. They talk about a guest named Togo Sakamaki, who is an enthusiastic politician who represents foreign policy in Japan. And why am I telling you all this? It turns out that this politician is the father of the vampires. Although for Reito, it is just a person to hate. When hearing about the father of the vampires, Yui mentions the name, Henskarl. And after saying that name, she faints. This leaves Reito surprised, so he wonders who she is. Later, Yui woke up in her room and wonders what the hell happened. Seeing that she has her rosary in her hand, she decides to try to leave the house. And to her surprise, the door is open. Thanks to this, Yui ends up going to the church. And she wonders if all this she is living is a test that God has put on her. She wonders if her father will be okay. But after asking that question, Reito appears and tells her that even if she asks that to God, he will not answer her. She asks him how he knew he was here. Reito answers that he had already told him that he knows everything about her, so he tells him that he should stop hearing. Yui asks him if he knows anything about his father. He tells him that it does not matter, and he tells him that he came to reveal who she really is. Reito hugs Yui, but she does not want to, so she begins to ask God for help, until in one of those, Yui pushes him. Reito laughs at Yui, tells her to stop wasting time, and that God is nothing more than a nonsense created by humans. Yui tells him that this is not true. So Reito realizes the faith that Yui has. In any case, he tells Yui that he is a fool, but Reito says that there is nothing you can believe in, and even if you pray, there is nothing that is granted to you. Yui replies that even so, he will continue to pray and continue to believe. Reito tells him that today is better than ever, and tells him that he will reveal all the desires he has hidden. So he asks him if he wants him to start from the top or from the bottom. Yui asks him to stop doing that kind of thing in a church. But the fact that Yui gets angry only seems to like Reito, since he even told him that he does not care if he is insulted, but as much as he tries, Reito tells him that he will not be able to against him. Since Reito is not human, so he tells him that he will surrender to him and be at his mercy. That's why Reito decides to see how much Yui can hold out today. So he starts drinking a little tomato juice. Yui was so bad that her tears were noticeable, and here Reito tells him that he is going to confess a secret, so he tells him that who offered it as a sacrifice for them, it was this church to which he has so much faith. Yui says that this cannot be, but Reito asks him then who sent him to them. This revelation leaves Yui in shock, and Reito tells him that they are going to fall to hell. For a moment Yui was cutting roses, and remember the words that Reito told him, that it was the church who offered it as a sacrifice for them. Their church that has so much faith. However, she thinks that this cannot be possible. Kanato asks Yui to bring those roses and follow her, tells her to hurry, since Kanato detests being made to wait. Kanato takes Yui to a cemetery, so she asks him why he brings her to this place. A question, as he asks if he does not like the darkness and the smell of death that are filled in the cemetery. Since for his part he loves Kanato, he thinks they are cold and silent. Kanato also says that his mother sleeps in this place, and when Yui was going to ask him the most obvious question, if his mother is dead, Kanato confesses that he was the one who eliminated his mother. He asks him to leave the roses in the grave of the mother, so Yui does. After leaving the roses, Yui has the intentions to leave. But when he is about to do it, Kanata tells him that he is a selfish man, and that he tells him that after having invited her, she leaves right away because she does not like him. He gets very angry, calling Yui selfish. So he takes the roses that Yui had put and begins to hit them against the tomb, very furious. Yui tells him to stop, trying to explain that he is not selfish as he thought. But Kanato tells her that she is a simple human and that she does not give orders, and Yui replies that it is about her mother's grave. But Kanato tells her that she could not understand that. Again Yui apologizes, but Kanato angry tells her not to apologize because he feels that it is a nuisance. He asks if he has fun cheating others, but of the scare Yui falls. So when he sees this, Kanato begins to laugh like a crazy person. She says that she looks very pathetic and that she crawls on the floor and cries like the pathetic girl she is. She even says that she could forgive her if she does that, and she apologizes. Kanato tells her that she is pretty, and at that moment Kanato leans on her, and when he is about to drink his blood, he stops for a moment. Kanato remembers that humans have to kiss them before drinking their tomato juice, and he asks him what the hell he's saying, but Kanato only tells him that it's a nuisance, and in that Kanato boom. He kisses Yui, after that he drinks some juice, and thinks that smell brings him memories. He keeps drinking a little more, and although Yui asked him to stop, he didn't. He tells him that he won't let her escape after that without energy. Yui returns to the house. We can see a guy outside who is looking at Yui. His name is Richard. Subaru finds him and asks him what he's doing here, but he only asks if he can't call him uncle because he can. This is the vampire uncle. Subaru tells his uncle to disappear, but this one before leaving tells him that in a while, the time to wake up will come. This waking up is something we will understand later, but you will see why. Yui arrives at a room in which she finds Reiji, who seems to be asleep. She was about to touch his shoulder, but in that he wakes up and asks her what she is doing here. Reiji complains a little that he woke him up, the smell of blood of Yui, but he prefers that to continue having a nightmare. Reiji asks if he offers her something. Yui tells him that he realized that he had completely forgotten to tell her what his position is. However, Reiji did not think he would have to tell her something like that. He asks if he thinks his tea is going to be served, so Reiji asks him not to believe more than he is. Yui knows that she is in Reiji's research office, so she asks him if others use this space, like Shu for example. Reiji answers that just hearing that name hurts his ears. Yui asks him why he hates Shu so much, but Reiji only answers that it is not necessary for him to know. Right at that moment, Reiji has memories of the past. We can see a little Reiji who was watching Shu, who was with a woman, while Reiji sees them from a very lonely window, the same window in which he is standing right now. Wow, how curious life is, right? After this memory, Reiji reconsiders a little. He tells Yui that he will make an exception and prepare a little tea. Reiji serves him a little tea, but when Yui tries it for some reason, the tea falls. Since Yui and gives her a medicine, and after giving her the medicine, Reiji asks her to pick up what she broke. Yui notices that in her hand there is a wound due to the broken cup, so there is a little tomato juice. Reiji takes Yui's hand and tells her not to get confused and that like this cup, Reiji says he's not interested in what is not perfect. However, he admits that Yui emanates a very sweet aroma. So at that moment Reiji tries a little tomato juice. After doing it, Reiji for some reason is surprised, but out of nowhere his attitude becomes very strange. He gets up, takes off his gloves and complains of having stained himself with a little tomato juice. He asks Yui to stand up. Yui can see in his eyes that Reiji only tells her to ask who could hear her, and also tells her that humans are just a blood vessel, and that despite being a worthless vessel, they want to get more pleasure than anyone. So after saying this, Reiji proceeds to drink a little tomato juice. She pushes Reiji a little, asking him to heal the wound. He tells him that he will bandage him so hard that his blood will be paralyzed. Just at that moment Reiji gets a memory. We see the day he finished with his mother, but his mother for having his end smiling. Kanato is singing Retranka Palanka. Yui went to where he was, since he was attracted by the song and wanted to know who it was. Kanato tells him that it is being a very pleasant night. Yui asks him what he is doing in this place sitting, since it is dangerous to be sitting there. Kanato says that nothing happens, but Yui continues to insist that it is dangerous. He tells her that she looks terrified and anxious, so she thinks it's very cute. Kanato also tells her that the truth is that he hates that face of hers. He worries that Yui is afraid of him so much. She tells him that at this moment she is not afraid of him, it is just that Yui was scared to see that Kanato could fall. Kanato replies that he bets that Yui does not know how naive she is. She tells him that she is silly and cute, that she even makes him laugh. She asks him if he is bad, that she worries about him. For Kanato it is not necessary that she do this, but she asks if she really wants him to get off where he is. Yui answers yes. So Kanato asks her to kiss him to get him off, and tells her that if her answer is no, then to leave her alone and disappear. Yui does not know what to do, but out of nowhere Kanato starts laughing. She asks if she really took it seriously. She says that without a doubt, she is a stupid without remedy. Kanato answers that it is very scandalous and asks if I would happen to him something just to throw himself from a second floor. Kanato expresses that he would like to die so easily, but it is not the case. She asks if he wants to die and Kanato's answer is a maybe, only not right now. Changing the subject a bit, Kanato tells him about a place that he likes a lot. He tells him that today he will make an exception and take her with him. Kanato takes Yui to a place where we can see many wax dolls. Kanato says that Teddy is also happy when they come to this place. He tells Yui that it does not seem that he is having a good time, and she confesses that wax dolls scare her. Yui tells him that she would prefer them to be as cute as Teddy. Kanato replies that of course he knows that Teddy is the cutest of them, but he says that Teddy, like these dolls, they ripped his soul. Kanato gets a little dizzy and tells Yui that she would look beautiful turned into a silent, soulless body. So he asks her very seriously if she would not like to become a doll right now. Yui obviously gets scared, but Kanato tells her that she will keep her very well taken care of and everything. She asks her what she is talking about, but Kanato assures her that Teddy will like to have her as a friend, so he tells her that she has nothing to lose. Yui tells him that she does not want to become a doll, so she tries to run away, but Kanato stops her and puts her against the wall. He asks her why she is so afraid. Although Kanato likes the expression of fear that Yui puts, he begins to lick her, so he asks Yui to stop, and Kanato wonders why he loves so much a face twisted by fear. He continues to lick her, but as Yui tells him to stop, Kanato tells him that he will make a seam in that scandalous mouth. He tells him that in his eyes he will introduce some crystal balls, so he wonders what color he will put them on. Kanato starts drinking a little tomato juice. He tells him that he is going to drink all his tomato juice and do not worry. He says that she will be more beautiful than any girlfriend. When hearing these words, Yui realizes that wax dolls are old girlfriends that were sacrificed. This makes her feel very scared. At that moment Kanato gets aggressive, so he holds Yui tightly by the neck. But, for Yui's luck, Hayato appeared, who tells Kanato that Reiji is calling him. Because of this, Kanato leaves. Yui was about to thank Hayato, but he tells him not to get confused, so he was about to drink some tomato juice, but out of nowhere Hayato stops and tells him that he is not in the mood for that today because he is lazy, or that's the excuse he gives when leaving the place where Yui was. He meets Subaru. He tells him that if he stays here he will undoubtedly die. Yui is very sad and approaches Subaru and tells him that he can't do anything either. Subaru answers that now yes, and that if he does it right now he will achieve it. Yui realizes that Subaru's words make sense. Since the moon is not complete tonight, it is barely seen. She goes to her room and begins to prepare her suitcases. She stops for a moment to see the photo she has of her as a child, and thinks that she better wants to know the truth. She goes to talk to Subaru. He is surprised that she didn't escape and tells her that rarely opportunities like that are presented. Yu asks her if she knows something about her and her father, then to tell her. She asks him about that it is a sacrifice offered by the church, but Subaru does not know anything about that. When Subaru sees Yui in the chest of the vampires, then you can eliminate them. She wonders why Subaru is telling her this, but he just leaves. But while he goes, he gets a memory. We see the past where a woman gave him that dagger and asked him to eliminate her, so a little Subaru did so, since it was the desire of the woman who asked him. When he returned to his room, Yui met with Reito, who tells her that he got tired of waiting for her. She asks him to leave. He asks her if she is serious. She realizes that she has Subaru's dagger with her, so Reito takes the dagger and puts it directly on her chest. He tells her that he feels honored that she loves him so much, since Reito says that being killed for a vampire is the greatest confession of love, and that it is what those who have a life that could be called eternal. Reito pushes her against the wall, tells her that in the end they are just for witch and that her blood confirms it by emanating a delicious aroma. She asks Reito to let him go, but he does not want to do that. He asks him to scream that he wants it. He tells her that God does not exist and that he does not need to obey the rules, so he asks her if it makes sense to live by hiding his desires. She tells him that she does not know if it makes sense, but Yui has faith, no matter how great the adversities are. She remains with her faith, since she says that humans, being weak, have faith. Yui's words make Reito laugh. Reito tells her that it is the first time he has met someone like her. He also confesses that he was only interested in her blood, but that has changed his mind. It's been a rainy night. Yui was asleep, but out of nowhere he wakes up and wonders if what he lived was a dream. She approaches the window realizing that it is raining hard, and outside in the courtyard she seems to see a woman on her back. She wonders who it will be, But when the woman turns around and smiles at her, Joey feels something in her chest. Because of this, she faints, and at that moment the window opens due to the strong wind. Then Joey gets up, but it doesn't seem to be the same. He walks to a place in automatic mode. When he regains consciousness, June asks where he is. He can see some children playing, which are the little vampires. Kanato cries because a bat escaped him after having caught him. Reito tries to comfort him. He tells him not to cry and that they will surely be able to catch another bat. Hayato supports what Reito says, so he tells Kanato not to worry and stop crying. He even offered to catch one for him. We see the woman before who could see Yui. This woman was looking for Hayato. She tells him to come back with her, because she wants Hayato to go back to study. Hayato refuses, because he has spent her studying. The woman does not think to listen to Hayato's excuses, so she tells him to go back to his room. Hayato asks why he has to study while Kanato and Reito can spend it playing. The woman expresses that Hayato is different from the other children, and because of this she does not want to let him play. Hayato protests because he does want to keep playing. The woman gets angry, and tells him how many times he has to repeat it. He is the successor, which has a very important meaning, so the woman asks him to tell him what he knows he should do. Hayato very well knows that he must be the first, be better than anyone, and if he does not, as Hayato is not the son of this woman, he will be submerged in the bottom of the lake. In response to Hayato, the woman tells him that he is a good boy, and tells him that as long as he is not number one, he will have no value. So she tells him that a boy like that will live forever alone in the bottom of the lake without anyone being able to save him, and if he does not want that to happen, Hayato will have to return to his room. These words scare the child, so Hayato runs away. Kanato goes with his mother, and she asks him to sing the song Mi Canario. And today in that place he also sees a Reiji child who is reading a book. And we can see Shu happy, who goes with a puppy to where Reiji is. Shu's mother sees him at that moment, asks him what he is doing and where he got that dog. Shu very happily tells him that he was given by a friend. However, his mother asks him to release the dog immediately because he tells her that he is the eldest son. Therefore he will be the head of the family, so she tells him that he must know how to behave at all times. The butler tries to take the dog from Shu, but Shu tries to stop him because he promised Edgar, his friend, that he would take care of him, but in the end the mother threw her the look of do what I tell you or you're screwed. So Shu had no choice but to let the dog go. This made Shu very sad, who ran away. For his part, Reiji tells his mother that he has memorized the whole book, but Uistoa says nothing to poor Reiji. He is frustrated looking at his book without saying more, since he was only looking for his mother's attention. When looking at the ground, Shu finds a white rose, so he picks it up, but the thorns of the rose hurt him a bit. He follows the path of the flowers and can find a little Subaru, which is watching a tower, since inside this tower is a woman, the mother of Subaru, and we can see how the dagger falls, which we saw at that time when he gave it to Yui. In that place Yui also sees Richard. He tells Cordelia that she is the most beautiful and elegant woman in this world. She asks Richard to stay by his side forever, to whisper sweet words to him. Hayato was watching this whole sequence, but out of nowhere everything turns black and white as if time had paused. The woman returns to see Yui, so she feels pain in her chest again and faints. When she opens her eyes, Yui meets Hayato, who was waking her up. Yui asks where they are. Hayato replies that in the underground water duct. Yui wonders how he got here, since she doesn't remember. But Ayato tells her not to come here on rainy days. She asks what that door is, but Ayato tells her that she doesn't have to know. At that moment Ayato realizes that he has a wound on his hand, so he asks how this was done, but Yui has no idea, or so she thinks at first, since the touch reminds her of the white rose she had grabbed on the floor in that memory. Reito also arrives at the place. He is fascinated by the great smell that emanates from Yui. He is glad to have found her and tells her that now they can have fun together here. Ayato supports what Reito says, since he tells her that Yui certainly has an extraordinary aroma. Yui panics and tries to run away, but the door is closed. Reito gets closer to her, so Yui asks him why he does this, and Reito does it because he just finds it funny. Ayato asks Reito to go away. He goes with Yui and starts drinking some tomato juice. Yui asks him to stop, because again his chest started hurting. This situation surprised Reito. Reito doesn't understand what's going on, and since he thinks Hayato finished his thing, he tells him that now it's his turn. Hayato answers him to do whatever he wants. So Reito starts doing things to Yui. He admits that Yui likes him. This makes Hayato jealous, so he won't stay behind, so he does the same as Reito. However, minutes later Ayato says that he is already bored and that he will leave this, so Ayato just leaves. Yui is watching the roses and suddenly begins to hear a piano. The sound obviously catches her attention, so she goes to the room where it comes from. It is about Reito, who is playing the piano. He is delighted to see Yui around here. Yui gets closer to Reito and asks him if he knows who the woman with the purple dress is. Yui describes her as a beautiful woman with long hair. Reito asks him why he wants to know this. Ayato asks him what he is doing here, since he and Kanato were there. Yui, when she sees them, asks them what is the name of their mother. Everyone in the room gets very serious, and Ayato answers, says the name of Cordelia. Now we can see Cordelia, who is agonizing, mentions the name of Ayato, since he was the one who attacked her. Ayato tastes her mother's tomato juice, and it tastes very sweet. She says it's very delicious, so she wants more. Cordelia drags herself as she can, and arrives at the room where Reito is with the piano. She approaches him. Reito, very calm, asks her what's going on. She tells her to look at what Hayato did to her. But Reito is not surprised, since she says that this was going to happen sooner or later. She orders Reito to help her. She is very scared. She even says that Hayato already decided to kill her. Reito tells her to relax, that she is very paranoid, that it's not about Hayato, and that it's just the wind's breeze. Reito also tells her that he will protect her. Cordelia stays waiting on the balcony. In that, Reito approaches her. She asks if he made Hayato go. Reito says yes. Because of this, Cordelia tells him that he knew he was the only one he could trust. Reito asks him if he loves him more than nobody. Cordelia answers yes and extends his hand. Reito tells her that does not change. However, she approaches. Cordelia tells him that she really loves him, but at that moment, Reito pushes her down the balcony. It is as if Cordelia fell between the roses and had her end. Reito, after doing this, says that now Cordelia will be eternally his. Kanato was walking around there. He finds his mother and asks her what happens to him, but obviously he will not answer. Kanato asks his mother to wake up and asks her where her heart is, because when Kanato found her, her heart was not there, but there is a very good reason for this that I will reveal later. He even suggests that they go look for it together. He thinks his mother must be cold, so he thinks to warm her up a little with the fire he carries with him. Kanato ends up lighting fire, and with a smile he asks his mother if he feels better. We can see Yui running through the garden, which she falls down. She says she doesn't want to be here. She can't stand it anymore. In that, she hears Subaru's voice, which tells her that's why she told him to leave. She asks if he knows what those three did to his own mother. Subaru asks what's with that. She asks Subaru why he gave her a dagger. But angry Subaru asks Yui to stay away from him, that if he gets close, he will destroy him. At that moment, Yui remembers the little Subaru, who was looking at a woman in the tower, and released a dagger. She asks him about the woman in the tower, since Yui wants to know if that woman is Subaru's mother. The angry asks him what he knows, but he held Yui's hand so tight that it is hurting her. Subaru asks what he could do. He is surprised by how sweet it is. She says no, but Subaru tells him to shut up and not say anything. The dagger when he wants. Yui responds that he could not do this. Subaru tells him that if he is not able to do it, then use the dagger to end himself. He says he has no right to use again. In the same way that he cannot deny his tomato juice. Yui simply closes the eyes without saying anything. Subaru tells him that this is what he should do. Stay quiet and let him nail his fangs. After that, Yui was quietly in his bed until he felt that someone lay down next to him. It was Ayato. She obviously turned to see him, but Ayato tells her not to look at him, and after saying that, he falls asleep hugging Yui. Now we see Richard, who says, "We'll see you soon, wake up, wake up, wake up Cordelia." And after saying that, Yui, her chest starts to hurt. So she asks herself, what's wrong? We see Yui walking through the night, which again goes to a place. Some bats attack her. She, obviously, gets scared. But out of nowhere, she hears a voice asking her to shut up. She asks if it's Shu, and it turns out that it is. Shu asks if he offers her something. Yui apologizes for bothering him. He tells her that he feels weird lately, that he hears the voice of a woman and feels a strange sensation, as if she were someone else. Shu asks him to come to him. Shu leans over Yui and begins to caress her hair. She wonders what she is doing and asks her to please let her go. Shu begins to drink tomato juice, but after trying it, he tells her that her juice has changed, so he tells her that she is about to wake up. She keeps drinking juice for a little longer, recognizes her as the first one, and asks her if she is afraid. She does not dislike seeing those fearful eyes. She says that she has the most delicious tomato juice than anyone. Shu already knows what they mean by waking up. It turns out that there has not been a sacrificed bride who has survived until the next moment when she wakes up. Hearing about the sacrificed brides, Yu remembers the first conversation he had with the vampires when he arrived at the mansion, where they talked about having a guest who came to the church and that they had to treat her with respect at that time. Hayato asked if Yu was the prospective bride. This memory makes him wonder what is the real reason why he is here. He wonders if his father is not just another friend of this family. Shu tells him to ask the rest to him, and Akashi felt a presence. It is Richard. At that moment Shu retires, so Yui is left alone with Richard. She asks Yui to apologize to her nephews for their bad manners, and as much as she insists, they do not correct their way of speaking. She asks Yui what she wants to know. Yui wants to know what is the reason why she came to this place, why she was chosen, and if her father has something to do with the subject of the sacrificed brides. When he hears the word chosen, he tells him that he is very presumptuous on his part. He tells him that the reason why he came to this house is because he has the age indicated to be the bride, and because it was the easiest human to obtain. He also tells him that his father, a simple human, has nothing to do with this. This news relieves Yui a lot, since in the end her father does not know anything. At that moment Yui feels a pain in her chest again. Richard, when he sees this, says that he will finally be able to see her. He has been waiting a long time for this moment. He asks her to go with him. And out of nowhere, a strong wind begins to blow. Yui wonders what the hell just happened. Her chest hurts more intensely. Richard gets closer to Yui and tells her to go where she is. Richard takes Yui to the room where the photo and the diary of his father were. When he sees the diary, he says that this will not be necessary anymore, so without further ado, in front of Yui, he destroys the diary. Then he opens a secret passage. Yui enters that place where they find a dress. When he sees the dress, Richard tells her that she has no reason to doubt. He tells her that this is his dress. Yui approaches the dress and touches the flower that is in him. After doing this we see Cordelia, which holds G's head. After doing this, G turns around and tells Richard that they finally met again. Richard looks at her like his beloved Cordelia. She starts laughing like crazy, and the moon turns all red. Each of the vampires is in his own, but they realize that something has just happened. Ayato just woke up, and he also had that bad feeling. He quickly ran to Yu's room, but he realizes that he is not there, and he only finds his rosary in the bed, which Ayato takes it, and after doing this, he feels weird. Cordelia, who possessed you, tells Richard that this reminds him of the old times. He proposes that they forget about time and start dancing all night, as if it were yesterday. Richard says to Cordelia's sister-in-law. She answers that he is calling her like that on purpose. This makes Cordelia seem adorable, but Richard does not do this on purpose, since she is the wife of his brother, and that is a truth that I cannot forget. It turns out that Richard is the man who fought for her with his brother and lost. That's why Richard has wandered the world for hundreds of years just to forget her. She tells him that he does not have to forget him. She tells him that he should not give anything to Karl-Heinz. But anyway, that does not matter much, since it is a thing of the past. And in the end, she resurrected just as Richard had wished. Just at that moment Ayato arrives and asks them what this means. Ayato wonders what they did to Yui. Cordelia tells Ayato how long. She asks him if he wants to know why he is here, so she asks Richard to explain it to her, while she says she will go to rest a little, since she has not yet adapted to Yui's body, and it is assumed that Yui is unconscious, but is trying to expel Cordelia since Cordelia has not yet taken over Yui's body 100%. But if the explanation of how Cordelia is here comes, it turns out that when she fell from the balcony to the roses, Richard accidentally found her. He asks her what happened to her, but Cordelia asks him a favor. She says that her body is no longer useful, so she asks him to tear her heart out and then implant it in another body. Richard knows that this is the only way Cordelia can live. He tells her that they will meet again, but he also asks her to hurry since Cordelia knows that if they don't hurry, he will resurrect her. That's why when Kanatro found her, she was heartless. That is, Cordelia's heart is in Yui's body. Richard says that Yui is just a container, however she still exists, although rarely. But once she wakes up, her soul will disappear forever, and only Cordelia will remain. And he knows perfectly well that Ayato is aware that Yui is one step away from awakening. Ayato goes with Cordelia. She asks him what he is going to do now. If he is going to eliminate her again. Ayato replies that he was not good at swimming. Cordelia remembers him very well, but says that thanks to her, Ayato improved. Ayato tells her that now it's her turn. However, Cordelia pretends to be a great swimmer. She pushes Cordelia into the water. Cordelia asks herself what is happening. And well, Ayato knows very well that Yui does not know how to swim. And I told them that this date would be more important for later, since this moment was going to come. Ayato tells her to disappear, and after saying this he was about to leave. But out of nowhere he heard Yui's voice saying her name. She leaves the lake. This obviously leaves Hayato surprised, and today he wonders what she was doing in the lake and why she is wearing that dress. However, Hayato only asks her to stay quiet. Since Hayato is dying of thirst, so he wants to drink tomato juice. Hayato starts drinking, and he finds it incredible. Since Yui is more full of energy than before, Yui asks him to stop, but Hayato cannot stop because the tomato juice is very sweet. Hayato proclaims that Yui belongs to him, his body, his soul, his heart, his everything. And at the moment when Hayato was about to kiss Yui, just Kanato and Reito appear. Yui, when she sees them, is scared, since they look thirsty, so she runs away. Hayato stands in front of them to stop them. Reito tells him that it's not good to be greedy, since they also want to try. Hayato tells them to shut up, and that's not their problem. Yui, meanwhile, continues to run very desperate. She reaches her room and looks for the dagger that Subaru had given her at the time. Speaking of Subaru, he appeared before Yui and began to drink a little tomato juice. Subaru says he does not plan to stop until he destroys her. Yui, because of how weak she is, falls. Subaru realizes that she was carrying the dagger with her. She asks if she has become fearful of them. Yui tells her that she is wrong, but that if she has that with her, she does not know what she would be capable of. Wei, since his blood about to awaken, has him fascinated, and that's what makes them lose control. They are frantic, wanting to take over from Yui, which will unleash a horrendous conflict and will subsequently lead to the death tragedy of all of them. Or that's what Richard thinks. Yui says it can't be. Richard says she admits it, and that deep inside she knows it will be like that. She wonders what she should do. For Richard, she doesn't need to think, since the answer will come to her spontaneously. She just has to accept it without fear, thinking that is her destiny. The windows open, and we can see a very red moon. You can see Cordelia from behind, which turns and returns to see Yui. By doing this, Yui's chest hurts, but she slowly approaches Cordelia. Yui seems to be hypnotized, but she extends her hand and gives it to Cordelia. When he has contact with her, Yui falls to the ground. Richie knows that finally the time has come for her to wake up completely. Yui keeps in a pose that seems to be praying, and when she opens her eyes, suddenly now they are green. Yui is drinking wine with Richie, since now she is Cordelia. Reggie appears before them. He knew that his uncle had a visit, but he never imagined that it was her. Cordelia tells Reggie that it's been a while since she saw them. She tells Reggie that if it weren't so serious, it would look like Carl when she met him. Reggie asks her not to mention her father so lightly. She says it's really offensive. Cordelia tells him not to stay there. She asks him to come closer. Cordelia wants to shine while she's alive, since what she hates the most is boredom. And it's because for those who have eternal life, boredom is the hardest thing. Boredom is the hardest thing. Reggie gives her all the reason. He tells her that certainly boredom doesn't go with her. He says that death makes her feel more. Cordelia takes these words as a compliment. She asks him if he wants to sit here, since Cordelia wants Reggie to feel closer to her to talk. He approaches her, however. He takes his precautions. Cordelia realizes this, and tells her that in this aspect she is identical to Beatrix. She hides her feelings so that no one sees them, and Cordelia says that in the end she had a miserable and pathetic end. This comment displeased Reggie, but Cordelia tells him that as Beatrix loved Shu, her older son, she thought that it would not bother her if he spoke ill of her mother. Reggie understands that this is how Cordelia ruined the relationship between Reggie's father and his uncle. Cordelia tells him that he is talking to her as if she were the cause of all the evil, although she admits that it may be true that she was the cause that the relationship between Carl and Richard was lost. Reggie thinks that apparently that relationship wasn't that solid, since she could be destroyed by a woman of her own accord. Cordelia tells him that he's too awake to be Beatrix's son, so now she likes him more. She approaches Reggie and tells him that her eyes are identical to Carl's, and since she has those beautiful eyes, Cordelia plans to tell him her secret. Since the reason Cordelia resurrected was to take revenge on Carl, she says that she will make him pay with death. She asks if it is a revenge for never having loved him. Cordelia replies that it seems that Reggie still does not understand men or women. There is no greater proof of love than his desire to eliminate him, says Cordelia. Based on logic, Reggie asks if then what he wants is to impose his love on him. Cordelia replies that she talks too much, so in that Cordelia kisses Reggie before Cordelia does. Reggie asks her not to play with him. She is really interested in Reggie as a man. Then Reggie asks her what will happen with her uncle. Cordelia tells her that her uncle does not oppose what she does. She asks him to continue in his way since they have all the time in the world. Reggie answers him that no thanks. He says that it is impossible for him to feel something for such an immoral and indecent woman. Cordelia, angry, slaps Reggie. Reito arrives at the place saying that they stop fighting, that they are family. Reito thought that the last time he would see Cordelia would be when he is in hell, but he was wrong. Cordelia regrets not meeting Reito's expectations. However, Reito thinks that this is better than he expected. Kanato also arrives. Cordelia calls him Canary and asks him to entertain him singing as he did in those days. Kanato wonders how it is possible that his mother is here. Subaru joins them, tells Cordelia to shut up and that they do not belong to this place. Subaru asks them to leave the house. Richard tells Subaru that he is good at talking, but that to protect his mother is useless. Subaru gets angry and attacks Richard, but Richard blocks him easily. He tells the other vampires that none are rivals for him. Shu asks him if he is sure of that, and tells him that the one who is good at words is him. Richard asks what Shu means by this. Shu replies that he is not even remotely close to being Karl Hein's rival, the head of the family. Cordelia finds this whole situation boring, and says that since this is here, she cannot stand out. So he gives her the dagger that belonged to Subaru. Richard is sure that if he slays this dagger in his heart, they will die in an instant. As if they disintegrate, Cordelia says that this will be the proof of the love that Richard has for her. She asks him to finish them again, and if he does, she promises to make him the new head of the family. This sequence to Richard seems strange to him, and he asks her if that wasn't part of the agreement they made to save her while she was in her deathbed, since at that time she told him that if she saved him, she would put him on his throne. Richard obviously doesn't forget this. She tells Richard that she will give him everything he wants. Richard calls stupid Cordelia, says that she has become indecorous and that she is no longer useful. All he needed was his heart, since if the owner of that heart wakes up and Richard takes over from her, then he can become the next head of the family without requiring Cordelia's help. He asks her if he had that plan since she entrusted her heart to him, and the truth is that yes, since it is not Cordelia who is abusing Richard, but all this time it was the other way around. Richard holds Cordelia and was about to drink her blood. However, Ayato asks them to shut up for good, and proclaims that she belongs to him. He asks them not to touch her without his consent. Richard tells Hayato not to meddle, and at that moment he attacks him with a sword. Hayato is also thrown a sword, and says that he will no longer allow them to continue doing what they want, so he will make them regret coming to this house. Richard underestimates Hayato, and they keep fighting. Hayato goes back until he is cornered against the wall. At that moment Richard hurts him. Hayato falls on his knees, and it seems that Richard is going to give him the final blow. But she tells him that with this no one else will be hurt, so Joey nails the dagger directly to the chest. Yui falls, but before she touches the ground, Ayato catches her. Richard, angry, proclaims that his heart is his, so he throws himself at her. However, Ayato attacks him, leaving Richard badly injured. After this, Ayato starts talking to Yui, asking her to open her eyes, to wake up. At that moment, she opens her eyes, but it's Cordelia. She says that Yui is very stupid for having done that. She says that her death and awakening is just a matter of time, and when all that happens, his body and soul will belong to Cordelia completely. Reito cannot believe that Yui will nail herself the dagger. He thinks she is a strange girl. Shu says that it causes too many problems to be a simple prey. Kaito asks if she will disappear. On the other hand, Hayato asks Subaru if he can tear that thing off, and when I was about to do it, Subaru tells him to wait, since he wants to do it. Subaru takes the dagger from Yui. On the other hand, Richard, badly injured, is in the water's conducts. He clings to life, since he does not want to die yet, because he wants to fulfill his goal. Returning with the vampires, they observe Yui, since her skin is increasingly pale, which means that her awakening could be at any time. Hayato asks if there is no way to expel Cordelia out of Yui. For his part, Reiji was reading a book, and while he sees it, he says that if only he could do that. Meanwhile, Subaru is with the dagger in the garden, and he is very angry. Riker, agonizing, arrives at the place where this dress is found, which is Cordelia's dress. He sees it and thinks that's all he needs. He tries to reach it, but at that moment Reito appears. He is surprised that it is this place where Richard hid the dress of Cordelia. Returning with Cho, she looks very sore. Hayato tells her to wake up, and as she is complaining, they ask what's wrong with her. Cho wonders if she will not be starting to wake up. Kanoto asks if there are no precedents that a common and ordinary human has awakened having the power of a vampire. Cho replies that no, and it is because they do not resist the process. Ayato says this case is different, because she has her heart. Returning to Reito, he knows that this dress is something dangerous. He tells his uncle that he must feel triumphant for taking advantage of her. He asks if he had planned to reveal himself to Cal once he has the power of the sacrificed bride. He asks him what he was going to do when he became the new head of the family. Richard says he's not going to tell the truth to someone like him. He tells him that the truth is not as simple as he imagines. The vampires wonder if there will be any way to save Yui. Reiji says there is, but it is not complete yet. Hayato, surprised, asks him if he has a solution. Reiji says he has a medicine that will eliminate that woman once and for all. It is unusual for Reiji to bring a product without finishing. So Hayato asks what is missing to be completed. Reiji thinks he needs a part of that woman. Subaru, for his part, thinks that there is nothing that can be done to help. Kanato says he has something. At that moment he breaks Teddy, and from him he takes out a jar. Kanato says it's something that he no longer needs, and inside the jar there was a little blood. Returning to Reito, he is going to make it very clear to Richard. He says that never more are they going to be manipulated by him or that woman. Richard says that they have a fate that they cannot escape from, and tells Reito that if he does not know, what a shame for him. Richard is very weakened, and for Reito, his uncle, he got here, since Reito throws a fire lamp at him, setting his uncle on fire, next to the dress. Hayato kisses Yui, and gives him the medicine that Reggie made. After doing that, she says the name of Yui. She opens her eyes and recognizes Hayato. She is surprised to be alive, so she asks what he is doing here. Hayato replies that she does not need to know. She realizes that all the boys are there, but her first words are to say that she is sad. Yui was on the balcony holding a rose. Hayato arrives with her and gives her his rosary. Upon receiving the rosary, Yui drops the rose she had, which falls on the balcony. She is happy to receive her rosary. And again they seal the room that was open when Yui arrived home. This ending the first season of this anime.